It's an absolutely insane day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast has just announced that they are doing a massive Marvel crossover with Magic. And that is something I never thought would happen.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The Magic Historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a crazy installment of Mega Magic News Marvel Edition. And genuinely, when I said at the beginning, I never thought this was possible, I really didn't. I have to say that I was wrong. We talked about it in live streams before, right? This is universes beyond. We move outside of Magic. The biggest universe beyond action until now was the Lord of the Rings. And the biggest hype driver for the Lord of the Rings universe beyond set was the whole 1/1 special ring, right? And I said specifically in a live stream, I can't see Wizards of the Coast being able to top Lord of the Rings unless they can find some other massive franchises that have a huge, widespread, pretty much worldwide appeal, right? And there were only a handful of examples that I could give for what kind of properties could swing in on that level and make that much of an impact to Magic. And Marvel was specifically one of the ones that I mentioned. But I waved it away because, first of all, Marvel is a huge property that I didn't expect Wizards to really be able to make a deal with. But on top of that, you have the fact that Disney is involved in Lorcana right now. And Lorcana is Disney's card game. I mean, technically, it's licensed out to Ravensburger. But either way, they're getting in to the TCG business right now with a game that is, by all accounts, looking very healthy and is quite profitable. So Lorcana could be around for years, and they can use any Disney property. So I honestly assumed that Lorcana was going to start to move into the realm of Marvel. But lo and behold, Wizards of the Coast has managed to ink a deal with Marvel, and this has to be like a brand new deal because Wizards of the Coast basically does things a year and a half out in terms of card design, printing. Like, it takes a lot of work to get a Magic set ready. Almost a full 2-year kind of life cycle. So they're announcing Marvel now, but it's for 2025. That's when we're going to have I shouldn't even say the year of Marvel insanity. It's probably going to be more than that. This is, I think what we're doing now is we're starting a new cycle trend. So Lord of the Rings is going to serve as the blueprint. When it comes to this Marvel idea, what they're going to do is everything and anything. It's already been stated that we're going to get at least one tentpole set for the Marvel cards. And if you don't know what tentpole sets are, those are the big major releases. So take a look at the Doctor Who release, for example. That is not a tentpole release. That has a set of 4 commander decks and collector boosters, but that's not enough to be considered tentpole. Tentpole is like Lord of the Rings, where you have set booster boxes, and well, I guess now set booster boxes, draft booster boxes are going to be converted into play booster boxes. But we're talking play booster boxes, we're talking collector booster boxes, we're talking commander decks, we're talking bundles, like a full-on set devoted to it, the same way that Final Fantasy is getting it in 2024. But admittedly, Final Fantasy isn't as big as Marvel, and I don't expect Final Fantasy to get the same level of treatment, because remember, Lord of the Rings is far from done. We've just done the first wave of Lord of the Rings that were based on one set of artwork. We still have the backsheet version of Lord of the Rings that's coming out next month. We are just moving at a breakneck pace. There's constantly stuff going on with Wizards. If you wondered why they did their Fallout spoiler announcement, it's because they got new announcements every day. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about Ixalan as they start to drop all the Ixalan spoilers. So they are wasting no time. This Marvel thing is going to be a huge deal. One of the big questions is, can they serialize anything on the level that would make it as big a hype train as the Lord of the Rings was. Because that One Ring thing basically reached way out beyond normal Magic players and hit even like crazy gamblers who were like, wait a minute, there's a big expensive card. Yeah, you know what? I'll buy some of these expensive collector boxes. I'll give it a go. Like, the Lord of the Rings succeeded wildly. And Wizards of the Coast has had their eye on Marvel for a long time. If you really pay attention to what Wizards was doing with their lore, when Marvel basically busted out and went, check it out, bro, we've unlocked the secret to a cinematic universe. And they're the only ones who really managed to do it properly, right? DC tried, and there was like the hilarious Dark Universe one with the Mummy. Like, there's a bunch of companies that went, let's do what they're doing. Let's build a sprawling 20-year movie empire. But it's impossible. Like, Marvel cultivated that. They set that up, and it worked out quite well for them. And not just movie companies tried to copy them. Wizards of the Coast went, yo, we want our own Avengers. And that's when they created the Gatewatch. And if you'll notice the Adventures of the Gatewatch, there's a whole bunch of parallels to the Avengers stories. And, oh, look at that. They had an end game the same time that we had, like, the War of the Spark kind of scenario almost. It was very much aping Marvel. So Wizards has had their eye on Marvel for a long time. I thought Marvel was too big a property to even go, yeah, okay, we'll deal with you, Wizards, like when it comes to the card games. So we have the scenario now where what do you create specifically that draws in as many people as the One Ring? Do you go with like Thanos' gauntlet, you know, the finger snap, everybody's gone deal? Do you pick particular Avengers? Do you go with Thor's hammer? I don't know specifically what in Avengers has the One Ring is a very special and unique object, but Marvel is a huge sprawling property. So on one hand, you have the massive reach of Marvel, but on the other hand, you have the fact that Marvel is not at its like apex anymore. When they created the whole Avengers storyline leading up to Endgame, they were totally on top. They were showing everybody what to do. The Infinity War, that stuff was amazing. That movie was fantastic. You didn't even have to be like really into Marvel or comic books to appreciate that. It was really well done and emotionally resonant. And Endgame was pretty solid too, not as good as Infinity. But anyways, after that though, there's a drop off. Marvel hasn't like had much in the way of banger movies since. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, that one did okay, right? That was a fun movie that did all right. I mean, I don't pay attention to every Disney movie, but it feels like overall the Marvel properties are on a decline. And we have a full year and a half before this Marvel stuff hits the shelves, right? So the question becomes, what stage is Marvel at then? Because Disney, in some ways, it feels like it parallels what's going on over at Hasbro. Hasbro is in a state of collapse where they're grasping for money wherever they can. Disney appears to have like taken amazing properties, like not only than Marvel, but they have Star Wars as well. And they've run Star Wars into the ground at the same time they've been running Marvel into the ground. So they spent all these money on these huge properties, and now they need to recoup the money, which now it's clicking into my head how Wizards of the Coast got a hold of the rights for Marvel, right? That's when it's like Marvel's over there going, yeah, we need to make money for Disney. So you know what? Sure, let's license these cards to you. So this is an interesting situation where you're going to, first of all, I want to know what they're going to serialize. Secondly, I expect that they're going to print this stuff for about 2 years. Like I said, Lord of the Rings is going to be the blueprint for this. Lord of the Rings hasn't even finished its initial print runs because we haven't even got the second version of the Lord of the Rings and the gift stuff that comes out at the end of the month. There's all kinds of more objects for Lord of the Rings, plus the fact that they declared it to be an evergreen product, which means it's going to be printed all the way up through 2024. So for the entirety of 2024, Lord of the Rings is going to be on sale and Wizards is going to be printing it. And I expect very much the same thing to happen with Marvel. This is a big property. They're going to do a whole bunch of products with it because they're going to want to extract as much money as humanly possible. That's what it's all about. And they have to pay the licensing fees. So they're going to put a bunch of that in there. And we're going to get to the point where how much room is there going to be in the printing production schedule for non-Universe Beyond sets? Clearly Wizards has signaled for the next X years at least, we are going heavily into Universes Beyond. But they've said that they're also dedicated to like renewing the Magic lore and making it better there was a point where they were trying to get rid of the Magic lore altogether and go, you know what, we'll give you like maybe a little blurb online, not even articles, right? So they tried to get rid of it, but they brought it back. Actually, speaking about the lore, the Ixalan story, the Lost Caverns of Ixalan story, has already started. The first 3 installments are out over on my Fantasy Geographic channel. So if you want to hear about some magical good times, you can go and check that out, learn about Ixalan. So Wizards of the Coast is still technically paying attention to their own properties, right? But the amount of like time and effort that's being dedicated to other things outside of it, like when you look at sets like the Doctor Who, you look at stuff like the Commander decks that they designed, a lot of those cards are really on point flavor-wise. Like they basically really drilled into the essence of the property they're representing and put a lot of time into the design of the cards and making them feel right and fun to play with. All these things that they should be doing for their regular releases. But their regular releases just feel like, here's a handful of mythics, we didn't really test anything, it's just, we're still running off Fire design, where they had already decided that Standard doesn't matter. And so now they're trying to course correct, and they're saying like, we're bringing back Standard, we're bringing back organized play, we're going to bring back that in-person competitive experience and not just fully focus on Commander. But at the same time, they're running in a million directions, chasing after all this universe beyond stuff. So ultimately, I have concerns that the game is just going to go further and further down this monopolization route. And like, it's kind of impossible to come back from it at a certain point. Like, you can take Monopoly and reskin it as any number of different games. That's fine. There's a bunch of games that work that way. But that's because Monopoly is a set board game where everything's inside it. It's all contained and everything is themed to that. But Magic is a whole bunch of sprawling different like worlds, but they all fit inside of Magic normally. And then you have the sets that come along from universes beyond, and all of a sudden, now you got The Walking Dead, now you got Doctor Who, now you got Street Fighter, and it just adds more and more. Now it's got Marvel to the point where Magic the Gathering is like IP soup, right? So on one hand, it's going to make a bunch of money for Magic. But on the other hand, it's going to further erode Magic's identity. And if Wizards doesn't take strong steps to fix that, then Magic's identity will be subsumed. It won't even be considered really Magic anymore. It will literally just be, it's everything and anything. And that's a big problem because it's not sustainable. Like, they're feeding off the biggest properties in the world to do this. Well, maybe not in the world, but in North American culture that's going to be easily accessible. We've got Lord of the Rings, we've got Marvel. Like, these are huge cultural pillars. There's not that many of these that Wizard can tap into, and they're spending so much time dedicating like the printers, going, hey, we're going to have these going for years and years. Like, they're doing everything with this. You're going to have your collector boosters, your play boosters, the whole full range of products, and we're probably going to get Marvel for like 2 years. And Final Fantasy has to fit in there as well. It's not as big as Lord of the Rings. It's not as big as Marvel, but it's got to perform too, and it's going to get choked out in the middle. Like, honestly, that's what we're talking about now. We're not talking about all the sets that are coming out next year in terms of what's going on in the Magic world. And the Netflix show, right? The Netflix show, what happened to it? Netflix killed their animation department, right? That's apparently, as far as I understand. So the Magic show that we heard was going to be made a few years ago is just gone. And the main discussion around Magic a lot of the time now is talking about things that aren't Magic. When you're talking about Lord of the Rings, when you're talking about Marvel and things like that, it's less and less about Magic, and the way that you get attention on your product isn't going, yo, check it out. We've got 2 cool new Magic cards for playing Magic. It's, check it out. We took your favorite thing. Do you like Hello Kitty? She's so pretty. Here you go. Come on in. We're doing a whole year of Hello Kitty. And we got Avril Lavigne to come and play that Hello Kitty song at MagicCon. Do you know what, do you know what I mean? We're not that far off. If you guys didn't know, when they did the Lord of the Rings set, they tapped Elijah Wood and were like, hey man, will you come DJ at MagicCon? That is actually pretty cool. I mean, I am making fun of it in one way by going the Hello Kitty thing. But I like Elijah Wood showed up, that's pretty cool. And I will admit that I'm biased when it comes to the Universe Beyond stuff. I think that too much Universe Beyond is bad for Magic. But when they do properties I like, I'm way more accepting of it. And I have to admit, once they like announce this Marvel thing, inside I'm like, oh, Can I hope for the biggest hope of all? Will one day they figure out how to make a deal with Nintendo? Will I get a Legend of Zelda like Universe Beyond? Because I would lose my mind. You have no idea. That would be the best Universe Beyond anywhere. And actually, this kind of reaction I'm having right now shows why they're tapping into this. Because people who are excited about other properties, about, I'll check it out. And so they're trying to draw people into Magic. But you got to keep the game strong. You got to keep your IP strong and have a lot to offer outside the Universes Beyond. So when they come in from the Universes Beyond, they decide to stay for the universe within. You know what I mean? Anyways, it's a crazy day when it comes to like Magic, obviously. This Marvel stuff has blown my mind. It's still real, and I can't really believe that this has happened. I had to like check multiple sources, check on Wizards' website and everything. Yep, it's real. So it's go time, friends. And by that I mean it's time for me to go. Thanks for coming by and hearing what I have to say. Big shout out to my patrons. You guys rule, and I will see you all in the next video.